Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om
Om
Namo
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam Namaskrutyam
Naran Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudirayet
Tato Jaya Mudirayet
Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu
Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
Bhagavati Uttam Sloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Reading from chapter 16 titled The Divine and Demoniac Natures, and the verse number is 18. Ahankaram balam darpam
Ahankaram balam darpam
kamam krodham cham samashrita
kamam krodham cha sansrita
mam atma paradehesu
mama atma paradeheshu
pradyusanto abhyusukha.
pradvishanto abhyasuyaka.
Ahankaram balam darpam
Ahankaram balam darpam
kamam krodham cha samsrita
kamam krodham cha sansritaha
Mamatma paradehesu
mama atma paradeheshu
pradvisantabhya suyaka.
pradvishanto abhyasuyaka.
Ahankaram balam darpam
Ahankaram balam darpam
kamam krodham cha samsrita
kamam krodham cha sansrita
Mamatma paradehesu
mamatma paradeheshu
pradvisanto abhyasuyaka.
pradvisanto abhyasuyaka.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read?
Ahankaram balam darpam
Ahankaram balam darpam
kamam krodham cha sansritaha
kamam krodham cha samsrita
mamatma paradeheshu
Mamatma paradehesu
pradvisanto abhyasuyaka.
pradyusantabhyusuka. Word by word meaning. Ahankaram, false ego.
Ahankaram false ego.
Balam, strength.
Balam strength.
Darpam, pride.
Darpam pride.
Kamam, lust.
Kamam lust.
Krodham, anger.
Krodham anger.
Cha, also.
Cha also.
Samsrita, having taken shelter of.
Samsrita having taken shelter of.
Mam, me.
Mam me.
Atma, in their own.
Atma in their own.
Para, and in other.
Per and in other.
Dehesu, bodies.
Deheshu bodies.
Pradvisanta, blaspheming.
Pradvisanta blasphemising.
Abhyasuyaka, envious.
Abhyasuyaka envious.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Bewildered by false ego,
Bewildered by false ego.
strength,
Strength.
pride,
Pride.
lust and anger,
Lust and anger.
the demon become envious
The demons become envious
of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
who is situated in their own bodies
who is situated in their own bodies
and in the bodies of others,
and in the bodies of others,
and blaspheme against the real religion.
and blaspheme against the real religion.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read this page?
A demonic person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the scriptures. He is envious of both the scriptures and the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is caused by his so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength. He does not know that the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of Godhead because he has no knowledge. Being envious of the scriptures and the supreme personality of Godhead, he puts forward false argument against the existence of God and denies the scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. He thinks that since no one can equal him in strength, power, or wealth, he can act in any way and no one can stop him. If he has an enemy who might check the advancement of his sensual activities, he makes plans to cut him down by his own
Power.
powers. Okay.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Let's all chant together. Agyana timirandasya jnana janashalakaya chakshurmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpatakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvesam Paratam Parikana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamsha हे कृष्ण
Hey
करुणा
Krishna
सिंधु
Karuna
दीनबंधु
Sindhu
जगतपते
Bandhu
गोपेश
Jagatpati
गोपिका
Gopesha
कांत
Gopika
राधा कांत
Kanta
नमस्तुते
Namaste
तप्त कांचन
Tapta
गौरांगी
Kanchan
राधे
Gaurangi Radhe
वृंदावनेश्वरी
Vrindavaneshwari
वृषभानुसुते देवी
Sute Devi
प्रणमामि
Pranami
हरिप्रिये
Hari Priye Vancha
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च
Kalpa
कृपा
Tarubhyacha
सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां
Nam
पावनेभ्यो
Pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
Vaishnavebhyo
नमो नमः
Namo Namo
जय श्री कृष्ण
Jai Shri
चैतन्य
Krishna
प्रभु
Chaitanya
नित्यानंद
Prabhu
श्री
Nityananda
अद्वैत गदाधर
Advaita Gadadhara
श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद
Bhakta Vrinda
हरे
Hare
कृष्णा
Krishna,
कृष्ण
Hare
कृष्ण हरे
Krishna,
हरे
Krishna Hare
हरे
Hare,
राम
Hare
हरे राम
Rama, Hare
राम
Rama,
राम हरे हरे
Hare Hare.
नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. And here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this verse is explaining about the demoniac qualities of personalities. So, this chapter is about the divine and demoniac natures, and Krishna goes on to discuss some very profound demoniac qualities which pulls us down in our approach to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here, Krishna is speaking about a trait where the person, by virtue of these bad qualities, tends to envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's a very confusing chapter and a concept, because how can a person, we think that we in the Krishna consciousness, we have been practicing sadhana for so many years, and you would end up thinking, how can a person envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? But actually, that's a fact, and that fact is so profound, and that's where we need a frank person to understand why the Supreme Personality of Godhead is being envied by demoniac people. So let's first get the verse right, because when the verse is being understood, we can go and discuss about some examples, some related metaphors. But let's try to understand what this verse is first. Ahankaram balam darpam. That means when we becomes controlled by our false ego, it's actually false. We think it is true, but actually it is false. When we are controlled by the false ego, which because of our balam, strength can be financial strength, strength can be physical strength, strength can be any form of strength, and pride, the mentality that we are superior. We are superior, and we want others to follow us in our ability to do something, and our ability to acquire things, kama. We have lusty desires. We want to get more and more, and then sometimes when the kama is not satisfied, we become angry, we get krodha. So with all these, vices, with all these vices, what so the vices are inside, right? And then the person takes shelter of the supreme. With all these vices, the person takes samashritam. That means the person takes shelter. So when he takes shelter, he gets some intermediate or immediate benefit. Okay. So when but we have not got rid of the problem. We have just suppressed it, and with that mentality, we have taken shelter of the supreme without understanding that different persons around us have a soul, and in there the super soul is residing. So we do not know that the, the Lord is residing with our neighbors. See, all the devotees who are joining this Zoom call, they all have super soul in their hearts who are watching them all the time. So when a person doesn't recognize that the supreme personality of Godhead is also present in somebody else, and we have this illusion, we have this blank mind that that we are not related. We all are related through the supreme personality of Godhead who is binding us by being present in everybody's heart. So when you have somebody who is present in all of us, our heart, if you have truly understood Krishna consciousness, you would have that element of karuna, the element of mercy, the element of compassion for each other. When we do not have that compassion, these vices, these impurities which are there inside our heart, it overtakes, it becomes more prominent. And because of these anarthas which are there, even if we take shelter of the Supreme, it doesn't come out right. And that is where, whenever somebody is suffering, we become happy. And we become unhappy when somebody gets um, a promotion in his job, or when the person becomes rich, or and we can't. So the ability for somebody to feel happy when somebody is unhappy, and our ability to feel unhappy when somebody is happy, and that when it transcends to the supreme personality of Godhead, that becomes envying the supreme personality of Godhead. And that is the reason why in this society we have so many god men. So whenever these godmen will go, they will say God doesn't have a form. The God is Nirakar. So all these deities you are seeing uh, is actually to focus your mind on somebody, but your end is that void, that Nirakar personality, who is actually Nirakar. He doesn't have a personality of his own. So these deities are, or they generally don't call them deities, they call them idols. These idols are essentially to focus your attention, but the real end is somewhere else. They will tell you, when you take food, you take a plate, but the real essence is the food. The plate is just a means to get you there. So they have totally, brainwashed the context of the personalism of the supreme personality of Godhead. And the reason why they do that is they envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They cannot stand somebody telling them that they are inferior to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And why they can't stand it? Because of these qualities which Krishna is mentioning: false ego, strength, pride, lust, anger. Because of that, they cannot envision in their hearts that there can be somebody who is more powerful, and they cannot treat that more powerful and be submissive enough and be dasa to them. And because of that, they envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this envying the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually a trait. It is actually present in all of us. All of us have certain envy. If we did not had envy, we would not be here in this material world in the first place. So this material world is a journey. We have come here on a journey. This is not the place where we're going to there forever. It is just a temporary journey, and we have to get rid of these impurities, so that when we surrender, we truly surrender, we do not envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So with that thought process, let's deep dive into the verse. So what Rupa Goswami, our one of the six acharyas, are saying that Shruti Smriti Puranadi means Shruti, oral reception. Before 5,000 years ago, everything was through oral reception. The guru will say something, and the student or the disciple will hear it, will retain it, because the memories used to be tremendous, and he or she will convey it to the subsequent generation. So it was the oral reception. Smriti is memory. They used to have tremendous memory. Puranadi, that means scriptures. So Rupa Goswami is saying is Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina, means, and the Pancharatric Vidhi of offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpa Taive Kalpade. That means anything which is without the oral reception, memory, scriptures, Pancharatra Vidhi, anything which ignores these things, it's actually a disturbance to the society. So if anywhere where we do not have a hearing what we're trying to do here, anywhere where we do not have the concept of memorizing the principles which are given to us, or following the scriptures, or the Pancharatrika Vidhi, which we are supposed to follow in our deity worship, anywhere where we are not following it and we are ignoring it, then whatever else we're trying to do in the name of spirituality, in the name of bhakti, or the name of mukti, or the name of shakti, is all a disturbance. That's the reason why most of the time when there is this puja programs going on the pandal, and there will be millions and lakhs and crores of money which will be spent on those pandals, and there will be you know doing loud music, and it's actually a disturbance to the society. You'll realize it, because when you go and you have this commercial, this puja, that puja, this puja, it's more of a sense gratificatory agency, and it is definitely not spiritualism. So 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 when you do not follow this, then in the name of spiritualism, you indirectly envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the reason why you try to ignore the tenets of the spiritualism, which is through the disciplic succession, evam parampara praptam. That means anything which doesn't get connected through a disciplic succession, anything you do not memorize in terms of the principles. Memory is not about, by hearting something. Memory is about following the principles properly, which is imparted to you, and the scriptures which we all are discussing every Saturday evening. And Pancharatra Vidhi is a process to offer prayers and offerings to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Chanakya Pandit, one of the prominent um, intelligentsia in who came, probably 2000 years ago to India. He mentions, which Prabhupada quotes in Vanipedia, that the envious man is more dangerous than a snake, because snake can be subdued by charming mantras or by some herbs, but a person who is envious, he cannot be pacified. He will constantly try to bite you again and again and again, and that person maybe a personality which is in our trait. And that's why these are all personalizations. And that's why, unless we get rid of this envy in our hearts, unless we start feeling happy when others are happy and start feeling sad when others are sad, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has mentioned a bhakta is para dukhe dukhi. That means if somebody is sad, the bhakta or the devotee is sad, and this envious person who is happy when somebody is sad and sad when somebody is happy, they will constantly be there to bite. So it's like a detoxification. This things what we're trying to do here is our ability to detoxify ourselves, so that when we get rid of the toxins and stick to Krishna consciousness, the Krishna consciousness will stick with us, not the toxins, because we have got rid of it. Otherwise, these toxins will come in our way to to sort of ingest Krishna consciousness. On the way, when the ingestion is happening, it will create as impurities, and it will create problems for us in our sadhana. So here you see Ravana. Ravana is offering a lot of prayers to Lord Shiva. You see, he is praying like anything. He is very focused. His austerity is even 100 and 1000 times more than all of us in terms of how he is offering prayers. Hiranyakasipu, right in the middle, he is seeking boon from Brahmaji to live forever. And they're so austere. And Bhasmasur is seeking to test the process of, if uh, he can touch somebody, they will be made into ashes. And finally, Vishnu, in the form of Mohini, is able to put Bhasmasur in a dance forum, and where in the dance he touched his hand in his head, and he actually put that test into production by himself, by becoming and fully converting into ashes by himself. So here you see the demoniac people seek benefit, which Krishna is saying in this words, in this word, that samshrita, that means taking shelter. So they take shelter for personal benefit. They take shelter so that they will get the benefit in the form of boon, and they will apply the benefit on them, and soon they want to overtake the person. From this demoniac people, you'll see in organizations, in companies, in various different people, where you would impact information, knowledge, and whatnot, but after some time they would like to take you away from the equation, and they want to grow and grow, because this is a cutthroat competition. And the scriptures are really touching our hearts, because it is really making us stand in front of a mirror and telling us who we truly are. And and these demoniac people have not gone from this world. They're still around. Ravanas of the world, Hiranyakasipus of the world, the Bhasmasurs of the world still exist in all of us, and we have a way to get rid of them from our lives. So if you really go deep into this, the conditioned soul has been entrapped by the, the rope of six enemies: the lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, and envy. So these are uh, essentially the the ropes which are controlling us in our ability to go here and there. And these things are getting us astray. And and the topmost is envy. Shishupal is the example of personification of envy. Shishupal, based on a prior directive from Rukmi, the brother of Rukmini Maharani, was supposed to get married to Shishupal. But Rukmini Maharani didn't want to get married to Shishupal. So Krishna had to exhibit that pastime. And Krishna uh, married Rukmini. And since then, he was envying Krishna like anything. He was envying Krishna. He given opportunity, he would end up killing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shishupal may not be there physically present, but Shishupal has left his traces in all of us. Sometimes when we do not get what we want, there are so many wonderful stories, novels, movies on this aspect of envy. So uh, when we become envy, we become demoniac in our nature. Ashuriv eva yonisu. And the greatest problems of materialist society is our ability to compare ourselves with others. Some of the philosophers have said comparing is the end of happiness and the beginning of discontent. So once you start comparing, your happiness ends and this envy sets in. The moment you start comparing, you enter the land of frustration. The mentality of comparing breeds the greatest obstacles for spiritual life, envy, which is the last person standing in our ability to go back to Godhead. If envy is there, we can never go back to Godhead, and that is very difficult for us to shun in our lives. Enviousness is the exact opponent of love. In the philosophy of our tradition, it is said that all suffering arises from envy. What is envy? It means to feel a slight pleasure when you see others suffering. You become a sadist, and these sadists are there in a husband-wife relationship, father-mother relationship, father-son relationship, mother-daughter relationship, and this ability when the power of someone not following you sets in your mind, you start envying and you really want to control everybody in your lives. And that is when everybody suffers. And by understanding that our abilities and abilities of others come from Krishna, they belong to Krishna. That's exactly what Krishna is saying, that the super soul is present everywhere. So indirectly, we all are related through the Supreme Personality of Godhead being in everyone's heart. If we know that by giving pain to somebody else, we are hurting Krishna, if that Krishna consciousness is there in all of our lives in such a way that when you hurt others, you realize you are hurting Krishna, you will not hurt them. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creation springs from the spark of my splendor, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. One who is not free from contamination of envy cannot advance in Krishna consciousness, and that is how uh, we all are uh, stuck in this material world, and we do not want to recognize it. And Bhagavad Gita rekindles that element of hope that you start learning when you realize you how much you don't know. Once you know how much you don't know, then you start approaching a process or someone by which you can know better. In Krishna consciousness, however, if someone excels, another person, the devotee who is excelled, thinks how fortunate the other person is to be advancing in devotional service. Such non-envy is typical of Vaikuntha. However, when one is envious of the competitor, that is material. So in Krishna consciousness, if somebody is advancing faster, then then when you get the association of that person, you would advance. That's the reason why in that mindset, when you see in a temple somebody is really doing well, you see somebody else coming and Prabhu, you're so nice. I just loved what you said or what you did, what you cooked, and that rubs on you. That goodness rubs on you, and that's the reason why there is no envy in a temple setting. But when you feel sad, that is competition, which is material. But when you excel within the confines of a Krishna consciousness society, you realize that you should be happy because you're going to get better in something you're lacking. And that is where you uh, tend to have more faith and belief in Krishna, scripture, and holy name once you start recognizing that. The most important thing about spiritual world is that there is no envy among devotees there. That is true even among flowers and birds. When a king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, the cuckoo, the crane, and Chakravaka, the swan, the parrot and partridge, and the peacock. So when somebody is glorifying the Lord, a bird is glorifying the Lord, the other birds stop and hear and relish that element of glorification, wherein they don't barge on and disturb and try to overtake. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. You see, the birds who are not human beings have internalized that sense of bhakti and the sense of devotion, and they relish that in Vaikuntha. And likewise, flowering plants like Mandara, Kunda, and Kurabajot, and there's so many wonderful lily, bakula, parijat. When they recognize that the plant Tulasi Maharani is special preference by the Lord, who garland himself with tulsi leaves, they step back. They recognize the importance and appreciate the importance of Tulsi Maharani. Tulsi Maharani may be a plant, but in Krishna consciousness, she is a topmost devotee. And other plants they recognize and they give very much. Right? And this cause of this envy is because of our premature renunciation, because we have not done enough to cleanse and we really have become a god man or something. And because of that premature um, renunciation, uh, this is the reason. That's the reason why Krishna consciousness is not a destination, it's a journey. And by doing the regulation, by doing chanting regularly, it's an attempt to cleanse so that all these impurities, what we have, is going to be cleansed. And that's why nobody in Krishna consciousness will recommend you to go and become a final thing. Like as you can see here, there is a lot of challenge in in premature renunciation without going through the process of purification. And only when you have understood the basic concepts, then you'll understand tougher concepts in a nicer way. If you haven't understood the basic concepts, the tougher concepts, you'll not be able to do it, and you'll look for ways and shortcuts to acquire it when you very much know that you do not have the fundamental skills. That's the reason why Krishna consciousness journey starts with getting your fundamental right. So at the time of crisis, at the time where your feet is shaking, you really do not shake, you gain strength. And that's the reason why Srila Prabhupada has imbibed that in his devotees, that these devotees have gone to many different places, in very challenging places like Russia, like Africa, and they have prevailed there. That is because their fundamentals are right. And that's why they have truly shunned the anarthas from their lives. And that's why they become a more Krishna consciousness and a more practical Krishna consciousness sadhakas in their life. So we can go on and on, but the purpose of this wonderful verse is to lay the importance of how envy is so important, how we should be able and we should be waiting on our wings to shun it. And once we shun it, everything else will become seamless, and we will see what Krishna is saying. We'll hear what Krishna is saying. Otherwise, it will appear very conflicting in our mind. And that's the reason why we should shun envy, ahankar, false ego, our ability to think that we are very powerful, and the deceit mentality where Krishna is saying they will first get into the shelter and then they forget and they try to overpower me by deceit. So all those bad qualities which Krishna is mentioning so beautifully in this verse, the false ego, strength, pride, lust, anger, and having taken shelter of me, they don't recognize the importance, and that really comes from envy. So with that, I'd like to end here. Open up for some question, comments, reflections. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any comments, questions? Any additions?
Prabhuji,
Yes, Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
How
Pranam,
can we get rid of this envy? What we should do to get rid of these bad qualities?
Very nice question, Prabhu. Very nice question. See, envy is when we are thinking, we're feeling happy at somebody's unhappy, right? So we think that that person, by suffering, is actually giving us happiness, because we know that that person is different and he is not a spirit soul. We think that he is somebody who is our enemy in a way. But if we think that he is part and parcel of Krishna, he has got the seed from the seed giving Father Krishna, and everything has come from me, and in his heart Krishna is there, then the karuna will set in our lives. We envy because we do not have karuna, we do not have compassion. And the way to get rid of envy, all of these qualities have a medicine, the spiritual medicine. And these are disease in many personalities we see around. This is a disease. This is a big disease. And Prabhuji, you are asking the perfect question. Uh, however, because there is a rat race, there is a competition, and the competition is actually material. But now we are trying to help our material lives and different lives, not just by enhancing our spiritual life, but recognizing that the spiritual life is truly a mirror reflection of us. Once we recognize that Krishna in his heart is, and then we have to help, we have to have compassion, then gradually this envy is going to go away. This envy is a poison, right? And with gradual medication, this will go away. The dose of medication bring Krishna consciousness, and more we read scriptures, we have examples in our lives. We have to live those examples in our lives. When we end up doing all of that, Prabhuji, once and for all, this will gradually, slowly, you'll feel happy when the other person is happy. You'll feel sad when other person is sad, and gradually, so it rubs with good association, and it rubs with driving. So that's why they say when you become Krishna conscious, your heart becomes as soft as makhan, which Krishna loves. And it is mentioned that if a place is dirty, right? If a place is dirty, Krishna doesn't come to sit in the place. But if we clean that place, if you oxy-clean it or clean it, then Krishna will be accessible to come and sit. So we have to make our hearts clean so that we can keep Krishna in our hearts. Because our hearts are not clean, it's very difficult to chant. It's very difficult to, do the prescribed qualities, like the divine qualities, like taking bath, becoming clean, staying truthful. It's because our heart is full of dirt. Once we clean the heart, then all the good things will come and stick to our hearts. Krishna will spray the good vibes, and gradually and gradually and gradually we're going to get better at it, and the medicine will take effect. The spiritual medicine will take effect, and we'll get better. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Any other additions? Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, to Prabhuji's question, the envious can be, how it can be improved is by the same what you have mentioned, Prabhuji, equanimity. Basically, we should treat as you have mentioned, Prabhuji, is super soul. So Krishna is there in everyone's heart. So if we try to look at that aspect, Prabhuji, we will never have envy, because Krishna has vested the power in, for whatever reason we are envious of someone, right? That is because we don't have that, right? It's mainly because envy is mainly because either our what we call either our thinking is not in line with the other person, or they have some attributes which we don't have, which we don't possess. So this is all. But if we understand the basic concept that everyone is we have a linkage to Krishna, the equanimity will come automatically, Prabhuji. Because the when we see Krishna in others, Prabhuji, we try not to see the either positives or negatives. We try to see them as how we see Krishna, as a devotee, Prabhuji, of course. Like as you have told, Shishupal and Nandvakra, though they were seeing Krishna, but they were envious of him, because they were not ready to accept him as a supreme personality of Godhead. They were thinking as at their level. So the main problem comes there only, that when we think either we are superior or somebody has his superior attributes than us. So equanimity is the fundamental principle which we have to practice. And the basis of that is that Krishna is the super soul who is sitting in everyone's heart. We should try to realize this, Prabhuji. I know it is said in scriptures, but we have to start realizing and put that into practice. That way we can reduce the enviousness towards others, because everybody has, I like to say this, ananyas chintayanto mayajana paryupaste tesham nityavittanam yogakshemam mahamya, in which Krishna clearly tells that that whatever you have and whatever you lack, I will take. If you are dedicated to me, like Arjuna, like Ananya means like Arjuna, who's dedicated. So if we surrendered, what is dedicated? Surrendered. If we are surrendered, then he will take. So when we know that Krishna is going to take care of us, then I really don't have to worry whether I have that attribute or not attribute, or will I be in the struggle of existence or not. It's all Krishna will take. When I surrender to that, I will not have any enviousness. Hari bol. That's
Thank you
my.
so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, and through gradual process, internalizing, reading scripture is one thing, but trying to apply it in our heart, as Prabhuji mentioned, will go a long way in getting these anarthas and impurities, and uh, uh, the antibiotic being Krishna consciousness will get rid of all the junk in our system. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
And
Any other?
even as our spiritual acharyas have mentioned, Prabhuji, as you also have mentioned, as you start chanting, it doesn't mean that we became perfect, Prabhuji. The purpose of our chanting is to cleanse ourselves. So all those anardhas which are there, so chanting is the easiest way to start the process, where these anardhas will be automatically, slowly, because Radhanath Swami has many times explained, Maharaj has explained that as our devotion grows, our weeds also grow with those. So we have to make sure that we take care of the weeds. We eliminate the weeds also at the same time. And envy is one of that weed which we have to basically overcome. So of course, chanting and practice the equanimity, we can, to some extent, we can keep improving. Thank you. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Any other comments? Questions?
One more point I want to tell Prabhuji here, as these characteristics, as the time progression, as the time has progressed, previously these demarcation between the favorable and unfavorable, I won't say good or bad, because favorable and unfavorable to Krishna consciousness, these were like, you can call inter-universe. They were not in the same, like people used to, good people like in Satyuga, like that, there was a distance, there was a physical separation and like that. And as the time progressed, it was between two people. And then as the time progressed, now with the Kali Yuga, it is within ourselves. Both the good and the bad are within ourselves, Prabhuji. They are not anything. We don't have to go and try to look in some other people. There is a Kabir Das Doha, if anybody is familiar with Hindi. Bura jo dekhan main chala, bura na mile koi. That when I tried to go and search for the bad in others, I could not find. Finally, I came to the conclusion that the bad is in me only. So similarly, in this era, the all these qualities which were remarkably different in other people, like the demons and the devatas, that he has that has substantially integrated into in our own hearts, basically in this at this time. So it is, we have to cultivate Krishna consciousness to eliminate those, Prabhuji. So it is also a function of the time. These envious, as you told, we are here because we are envious, but we are in a more precarious condition because already we are in such time where both of them are in us only.
Right. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments? Any other thoughts, additions? So everybody is doing well and staying warm in wherever you are. Or how is everything? Is probably it's a good opportunity to chant more because you're staying in your house because outside is very, very cold. So please take this opportunity to read Bhagavad Gita and practice, and it can only help you in your pursuit of Krishna consciousness. Any other thoughts before we end? So we have anybody who would like to identify and speak a little bit about how this verse is going to help you in your lives, please share.
Prabhuji, wonderful class, Prabhuji. I have one small question which usually ask many people. Even to see patiently what is the other person's point of view and if it's valid, sometimes I feel I need some tolerance, more patience to clearly analyze the situation. And I personally feel I lack a lot of tolerance and patience in me. So do you know like any tips that will help in?
Yes. So this is where some of our acharyas have mentioned that you might have seen this example which is given. This is also discussed. So earlier, Mataji, 20, 30, 40 years back, there used to be fight between families, right? Husband, wife will fight, and the wife will write a letter to the parents saying that, dad or mom, come, I'm having a fight with my husband. You try to mediate, and by the time the parents get the letter, they come to the daughter, uh, it's already 2 3 weeks, and they have patched, and the parents stay for a day or two and then they go back. But in this age where there is instant messaging, whenever there is anger, and this is a funny story I hear all the time, and here immediately there is instant message, WhatsApp, and there is um, a reactive process which goes in, and it destroys everything, and there is internal fights and impatience. So Gaur Gopal Prabhu, beautiful video, you might have seen. We need a way to not react to a situation. We need to respond to a situation. And often responding to a situation instead of reacting to a situation comes with giving time. You might have seen a politician, a prime minister of a country like India, early 90s, whenever there will be very difficult questions asked, he will just keep quiet. He will just keep quiet, and the press will understand something. They can't write much. But the benefit of doubt is, so whenever you are in Brahma Muhurta, when you're silent, when you're nobody is outside, there is no honking going on, you can nicely chant, and you have your personal time with Krishna. Then you recognize. So this is why Krishna consciousness is the greatest yoga system, because other things, it deals with meditation. Ours is the topmost meditational process, where in the calmness. So we have to practice. So the technique, Mataji, is uh, unless we change something in our life, nothing is going to happen. So we have to probably get up, chant. When you have a good quality chanting, even 1 round, 2 round, good quality chanting in at 5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m., the day goes very well. And slowly and slowly, when you are able to deal with 4:30, 5 o'clock, and lead a life, then patient will set in. And when the patient will set in, you will not react, you will respond. Does that help, Mataji?
Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah, I had to start practicing it like how Dada Prabhuji is told in a meeting. I had to keep on practicing it. Probably then I'll see some difference.
Yes.
Hopefully, yeah.
And it does help, actually. Gradually, the process is so tuned, and there is so much of sadness in people's mind, but they slowly come and grow with the system, go with the process. It really helps. And if you try uh, 2 3 times a week, then make it 4 days a week. And if you end up doing, close your eyes and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and think about our Radha, Shyam Sundar, Jagannath Baldev, Subhadra, Gaur Nitai, and his pastimes 100 times in a calm. Gradually, you'll have patience built in, and then we'll all become more agile, and will help us. Okay, Mataji?
Sure, Prabhuji. Sure,
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Any other comments? Any
Yeah,
other questions?
I like to add, Prabhuji, to Mataji's question. Mataji, the problem is because of our false ego. If we recognize that, Mataji, and two, we have to start accepting, Mataji. The problem is the false ego kicks in because we don't accept the situation or the circumstance, basically. We think that we are always right, That is the main problem with our. So the tolerance will come when we think that, okay, Krishna, this is your situation to me. You are asking me to solve this. Let me solve this, rather than thinking, oh, why did this happen to me, or why people are not listening to me. Okay, so if we think that Krishna is trying to teach us something with this circumstance of the situation, as Prabhuji told, we'll not react, we'll respond. Then we will try to see, okay, what is the we'll see the situation from a higher perspective, then means from a higher elevation, basically. rather than, otherwise if we react, we are seeing it from a same level. So the only way, Mataji, is to keep Krishna, that's what meaning of keeping Krishna in the center, that okay, Krishna, you have given this situation. Please guide me also how to handle this. So I will learn something. He wants you to learn, all of us. He wants all of us to learn through this. He's not a sadist that he's trying to give us trouble or misery or anything. He's asking us to learn so that we get back to him sooner. So that is another approach, Mataji. You can say that, okay, this situation has come to me. Let me learn from it. Let me see how to deal with it. And let me also understand it. That way you'll automatically get patience, Mataji, tolerance.
Okay, Prabhuji, yeah, okay. Sure, I had to, yeah, even practice that. Yeah,
It's a
Prabhuji.
gradual process, Mataji. It's a gradual process. As we practice, we try to apply. Like we, even in our regular life, Mataji, we study so much, we study so many things, but unless and until we apply, we won't realize them. So the realization comes when we start applying these principles.
Yes,
Sure,
thank you.
Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So patience, tolerance, these are some of the powerful tenets. So we can end here if there is no other question or comment. Okay. So we offer prayers at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vancha Kalpataru Vaishna Kripa Sindhavaivacha Danam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
Hari Hari.